Gilmore, and you are watching Positively Spiritual. It is so good to be back. I took a little hiatus because Saturday we did, or was it Friday night? Yeah, Friday night we did a video that you guys are just blowing up my YouTube channel with. Like, the views on this has just gone wow, like 300 views in just a few days. Like, wow, this is amazing. So we're going to do part two of the dangerous side of sex and the narcissist, the dark psychology of it. I took a hiatus because there was a troll or somebody who did not like what I had to say about the sex and the narcissist and sex, and so they were quite nasty, and I blocked their comments, but they were really distracting. They were coming in on this video, or on not this one but that video. They were coming on it and with the same name, just a different channel. So I was extremely distracted. The things that they were saying were very threatening, and it had this familiar spirit to it of a narcissist that I used to know. And I wasn't scared, but I was a little intimidated because the narcissist that I used to know, that was, this person, this troll, was showcasing the familiar spirit that just had me a little bit alarmed. And so I decided, after cutting that video quite short, I was only online for maybe 5 minutes. Welcome everyone. And so I decided to take a few days break just to let this simmer down, because the dark psychology of sex and the narcissist is creating people, like, it's making people feel uncomfortable, and it's agitating the demons. So we're going to talk about it some more today, and agitate the demons some more, because I'm no. I want to share with you, and I'll dig into it in another digest, another video. But I did go investigate just to see what this narcissist that I used to know was up to. If, because at one time I did suspect that maybe they put a tracker on my car, and I'm thinking, okay, I moved since then. Do they know where I am? This is too familiar of ground. This, like I said, this person and their comments were very threatening and very alarming, and so I just wanted to make sure that I was safe. So I went and Googled this person's name, because they at one time had a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page, and I couldn't find it. Gone. I Googled their name, and immediately what came up was an obituary that I ignored, because I'm just like, okay, well, this name is common, probably isn't that, so I'll just look for their Facebook page first. No Facebook page. And then God prompted me to click on it, Shannon. So I did, and I got a shock. The person is now deceased, and they died 6 months after we broke up. And we were in contact in August, and that March they were dead. And I do suspect it was death by suicide, because most borderline personalities who go through comorbidity do have suicidal tendencies, and this person had a dog that died. And so when a narcissist is met with the narcissistic collapse, what causes that is some sort of crisis. And when I finally had enough, they were kind of stalking me online on this YouTube channel, and I called them out a few times on the comments that they made. But anyways, normally with narcissistic collapse, they go through a comorbidity where they have this. Narcissism isn't just black and white. It's not just diagnosed as narcissism. There are underlying issues. And these underlying issues could be borderline personality disorder, known as antisocial personality disorder, psychopathy, sociopathy, the dark triad, malignant, vulnerable. Like narcissists all vacillate between malignancy and vulnerability. So it's really difficult to diagnose. It's really, we're not people to diagnose this, right? Okay, so anyways, this person whom I had over 1 year, like we met at the beginning of COVID, just before lockdowns happened. We met in March and he died in March in 2022. And I do believe that, like, he told me that he burnt bridges, and I was basically the only person left, and he burnt that bridge with me too. He was very, very violent verbally with me, and that's what gave me the notion to go and check and investigate on YouTube, because the heckler that I had on Saturday in doing a live was very familiar in spirit. And so that's why it's been a while, a few days, and we're doing this Tuesday just to let things dissipate. Because when you're talking about sex and narcissism, we're going for the jugular of the narcissist here, because sex is very important to them, because it is the root, or it is the main system of control. Now, we're going through a time in the world where we are seeing the effects of narcissism. And like I said in the last video, what you are seeing with P. Diddy and his entourage, this is every narcissist's dream, but being found out is every narcissist's nightmare. But what P. Diddy and all these celebrities were, and the governmental people were able to do behind closed doors, this is, pardon the expression, but this is the narcissist's wet dream. Yes, pun intended, because we're talking about sex. And no, we're not going to get graphic here, but do not watch this video with children. Save this video, comment later, or make a comment and I will comment, and that will alert you that I commented, and then you have access to this video so it doesn't get lost in the wind of all your video playlists and all of that. Come back to this, because you're going to learn something here. Because we just touched on the spiritual aspects of sex and the narcissist in the last video, where I share with you that when you have sex with the narcissist, you are taking on and absorbing their spiritual likeness. If you guys don't know the chakras of the body, start learning them now. No, this is not esoteric. This is not woo-woo. This is not witchcraft. This is not against God. God made us as energy. That is exactly what the soul and spirit is. What the science calls energy, God calls spirit. Science knows that energy cannot be created or destroyed. And this is why we do not do denominations here, because denominations pigeonhole you to misunderstand, misinterpret, and miss the mark. When you pigeonhole God, God is the God of all creation. God is the one who gives us the essence to dare to dream of the impossible, because with God all things are possible. If you understand science, go into, what was it, grade 9 and 10 science, where you learned stoichiometry, where you learned that the cation and how cations and anions were made, how the electron how the atom or the atom gave away electrons or absorbed electrons, and that's how electrons are what binds two particles together. So we're not going to get into the science of it, but if you can just go back into your memory banks or do a little bit of research and understand that we are always giving off energy and we are always absorbing energy. Look into Thunderbolts of the Gods. That's an online YouTube video. It's also, I think also there is a website called Thunderbolts of the Gods. It's the electric universe. And just go research that and tell me what you find out. Tell me what you think. But if you understand a little bit of science and maybe a little bit or a lot of quantum theory, quantum science, you're going to understand that we absorb each other's energy. We can feel each other's energy when we are in tune to it. You know, the feeling that you get on an elevator or you're walking down a path and you just sense danger, or you just sense you get onto the elevator, or you're waiting for the elevator and somebody's already on there and you just sense, just stay away from them, and so you don't get on that elevator, or you don't travel down that path, or you don't get in your car and go to the airport when you want because God tells you, your intuition tells you, no, it's not a good idea to book a flight today. There's a reason for that, and it's because we give off energy and we absorb energy. This is why we have the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, and our sense of touch, because these are what enable us to sense the many variances of the spirit. The spirit makes sound so we can hear it. The spirit can be seen so we can see it. The spirit can be smelt so we can smell it. The spirit speaks its feelings so we have communication and invoke our intention and our feelings on our words that other people absorb. We can touch the spirit, hot and cold. We can sense it. We can feel it. So please do not dismiss this video, as I'm going to get into some spiritual dynamics here that are That's all, folks. Bye-bye. Now, this is extremely important, okay? We don't understand the importance of this, of being unevenly yoked with somebody. Unevenly yoked is in friendship and certainly our sexual relationships. Many of us are going into relationships still traumatized, hoping that we can just ignore our trauma because somebody is giving us attention and somebody loves us or claims to love us. And then when shiitake mushrooms hit the fan, we're saying, oh, what happened? I thought they loved me. Oh, you know, I'm guilty of this too. I'm guilty of this too. And, you know, it's time to, there's stuff coming, waiting on the wings here. There's stuff that's about to burst open, and we have to be ready. Because spiritually, if we're not ready, we are going to be demonically attacked. And I know something about demonic attacks, people. I really do. I used a Ouija board when I was 17 years old. No church, no pastor, no laying on hands, no prayer delivered me of these demons. Jesus delivered me of demons. But it took 20 years because I didn't have the proper teaching, because people don't understand what demonics is, what the demonic realm is. And many people don't realize that they're playing into the hand of the demon, and the demon is leading them, and they think it's God. God says that the angel, the enemy, walks in as an angel of light. So please be careful. So let's get into this. As last video, I talked about how we absorb when we have sex, when we hold hands, even being in the same room. Heartmath.org shows on their website that they've done experiments with people in a crowded room or people with their pets. And just being in a room with people, 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, that's all it takes. With animals, it's like 2 minutes. But with people, like a crowded room, within 5 minutes, they measured that everybody's heartbeat was beating, in synchronicity according to the heartbeat of the person who was the orator, the person who is public speaking to this group. So the public speaker was considered the leader, and everybody's heartbeats followed the leader. Everybody's was in synchronous timing with the leader's heartbeat, and that has been shown on heartmath.org. That also, if you have an animal, your heartbeat and your animal's heartbeat will synchronize as well, meaning that one person absorbs the other person, the dominant's heartbeat. And this is true with God when he says corruption corrupts people. I've been taught, I've been led to believe that, somebody who, needs help, it's my duty to befriend them because I can lead them to Jesus. No, we plant seeds and then we're supposed to move on. Because you go and plant seeds and hang around a Satanist, what happens? You become a Satanist. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because energy absorbs energy. Energy can repel other energy, but you got to be strong enough in knowing who you are to repel that kind of energy, and most people aren't. Especially when it came to P. Diddy and he used blackmail and coercion. And I just watched a short video on YouTube yesterday where somebody who has made a claim against P. Diddy, and the lawyer has mentioned that the baby oil was used and it was laced with some sort of drug, that this woman who was assaulted by P. Diddy and somebody else, is that he forced her under knife to undress herself, and then he squirted this oil all over her, and after a little while, she had a drink of water, but it was just a sip, so she basically said it wasn't enough. That sip of water wasn't enough to do anything to her, but the more he kept squirting this baby oil on her, and she noticed that she was unable to, move correctly, it rendered her incapacitated. So that's what I want to talk about, because if you guys are not familiar, narcissists love their drug of choice. Narcissists often have an addiction, like they have an addictive personality. So they're addicted to drugs, alcohol, and sex. Hi, Bursa, nice to see you. Bursa says, I have really good news. Today I got a letter from court. The injunction and permanent resident order got approved and it is not subject to appeal. Yay, thank you, Jesus. Wow, that's great news. Wow. So what are your plans now after this? So permanent resident order. Okay, so now what? What's your plans now? What do you foresee in your future? I'm happy for you. That's awesome. That's good news. Good news. Celebrate. Thank you, Jesus. So, understanding that narcissists, like most people, do have addictive personalities. Bursa says, I'm planning to live in my place peacefully. Amen. Yes. Enjoy your peace. Enjoy your place. Now it's yours. Now it's yours and you can just be comfortable. Going to go nursing school. Oh, right on. Right on, Bursa. May you just flourish in all your endeavors. Thank you, Jesus. May Jesus just guide you and lead you. Amen. Okay, so most of us do have an addictive personality. That just happens with trauma. We've got to work that through. As God in Galatians tells us, we have to work out our salvation with fear and trembling. That's a different scripture, but we have to walk in self-control. That's Galatians. We have to walk in self-control. And that means we have to, hello Marlene, nice to see you, welcome. We have to be mindful of these addictions. Well, are narcissists mindful of their addictions? No, they don't care. because those addictions that they feed into, whether it's alcohol or drugs, gambling or whatever, it feeds the high, it makes them feel good. And with alcohol and drugs in particular, depending on what kind of drugs they use, but alcohol definitely, alcohol is a depressant, and it numbs, it dulls the senses, it dulls the mind, and it incapacitates an individual from thinking about really horrendous things. And I imagine it can prevent somebody to prevents them from thinking about themselves. In as far as a narcissist is concerned, it prevents them from thinking, oh, I'm a loser, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. I mean, if you drink too much, yeah, then the alcohol will have you spiral into depression, yes, but there's a threshold. And when somebody is drinking, it takes away somebody's inhibitions. It makes them feel grandiose. It makes them feel larger than life. And so, using the case of P. Diddy and what we're seeing in coming to fruition at this point, as I stated, what you're seeing in Hollywood, Hollyweird, what you're seeing in the music and movie industry, what was going on behind closed doors, this is every narcissist's dream. This is what they ultimately want. But some narcissists are not that yet strong in their narcissism, where they're still vulnerable, but the vulnerable can do much damage, a lot of damage. But are they like a psychopath? Not yet. The narcissist has to cross that line, and it's just like how a child develops into their physical nature. Well, a narcissist develops into their behavioral nature. They're still growing, and we're seeing the growing patterns, the what do you call it? The growing mishaps, the growing pains of narcissism, where somebody, for example, a psychopath was probably once a vulnerable narcissist, whether it was in their youth, their teenage years, their young teens, or their young adult age. It doesn't matter. A psychopath grew up and developed into that psychopathy. And it just took a little bit of quote unquote nurturing for that to happen, for the lack of a better word. So a narcissist is nurtured into the ways that they will go. Just like the Bible says, train a child in the ways that they will go, and when they're older, they will not leave it. So a child in their youth is trained in the ways that they will go, whether it be narcissism or whether it be empathy. And so when you have situations like P. Diddy and other psychopaths who use drugs and alcohol to subdue their targets or victims, you're not dealing with somebody who is human. We've talked about this before, and this is the dark side of narcissism that psychologists and barely anybody wants to talk about. But those of us who have seen the narcissist, the demonic side, this is it. This is it. What you're seeing come out into the view of everybody that's being exposed, you're seeing what demons do. Not what humans do to other people. You're seeing what demons do. You're seeing what demons do to dehumanize an individual. And this goes back to the curse of Genesis, where God says between the enemy and Eve. He didn't say this to Adam. He said this between the enemy. I will put enmity between your seed and hers. The enemy is a misogynist. Men are not naturally misogynists. Any man who is a misogynist has demons, and they are a narcissist. Just because P. Diddy hung around his mommy does not mean that he hated her. He degraded her. Versus says they are really scary. A few days ago, he threatened to tell intimate details about me to my family, employer, and school. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, and that's what they do. I've been in that situation too, where I live with my daughter. We have each other. We're each other's family. That's all we've got. So we live together. Big deal. And she's a young adult, and she's got her own mind. And I was dating this narcissist who died. Found out he died. The story about that is at the beginning of this video. I'll talk about that in another video too, because I do want to talk about survivor's remorse. But this is what they do. The narcissist brings about our vulnerable side and uses our intimacy with them as a tool to get us to do what they want, because they know that what we do with them sexually is probably not, they know it goes against our moral grain. They know that pornography is wrong. They know that doing things that corrupt the marriage bed is wrong, but they can't. They lust after that stuff. They can't. They have this sexual addiction. And even Freud, I don't like talking about Freud because he was like a weirdo. He was a pedophile. But how we have narcissism today is because of his studies. And his studies was to understand his own sexual proclivities as he was molested, essayed by his own dad. And so that awakened homosexual tendencies in him that he wanted, back in the day, it was illegal. Like, he could go to jail and be put to death for homosexuality. So he wanted to figure this out. And he discovered that men in general who were addicted to sex, narcissists. So you can research that for yourself. But with P. Diddy and these other men that P. Diddy had sex with, we're going to talk about this. As last video, we just lightly touched on it. We dug deep, but it goes deeper still. That we talked about how when you have men on men sex, you're trading masculinity, the spiritual masculinity, for more spiritual masculinity. That's what happens. Our bodies absorb and give off electricity, energy. What science calls energy, the Bible calls spirit. And there's different layers of our spirit. And these layers are different colors. The rainbow is, to help us understand who we are as energetic species, as energy. We have those colors in us. Each energetic pattern inside of us has a color. And all you have to do is go to Dr. Emoto's experiments on water to discover this for yourself. You don't believe this? Water holds energy. Water has a memory because water is spiritual in nature. Ever wonder why we're 96, 97, 98% water and why we depend on water for our very sustenance? It goes right back to the beginning of creation. In the beginning there was God. And the first line in Genesis, I think it's Genesis chapter 1 verse 2. And the Spirit of God hovered over the waters. God imparted his Spirit into the waters. Splashed my glasses. So Dr. Emoto's experiments is he discovered that our intention affects water. Our intention of our mind, of our will, imprints on our cellular structure, on the water in our bodies. When I'm speaking right now, and water is getting released into the air, and this air, this water particles from breathing, from speaking, are in my atmosphere in front of me. And if you were in front of me, you would be physically breathing those in. You would be breathing in the particles that I'm exhaling. And my particles that are in my body are imbued with my intent. So those water droplets are imbued with the intention of my soul, of meaning of what I give my words. And you're breathing them in and you're taking them in and digesting them. And that is like, aha, I understand. Okay. Because the water from me is breathed into you and enhances the water that's in you. This is Dr. Emoto's experiments, as he showed us that the intent, all you need to do is what he did. He wrote on pieces of paper or spoke to water itself. He spoke loving things, and then he spoke in intention of unloving things, froze the water. Then after a time, he took a little sample of a frozen water droplet, looked at it under a microscope, and saw that the frozen water droplet that was spoken to with positive intent and loving intent formed coherent, beautiful colored, solid snowflakes, crystalline structures that were not broken. But the one, like he saw under a microscope, the frozen particles of water that he spoke negativity to or exposed to negativity, those were destructured as they didn't form intricate patterns. They were broken and they were dull in color, like browns and grays and dull blacks and just murky colors. So the reason why I'm saying this is because we have an energetic pattern that we can't see, because this energy exists beyond the scope of the light spectrum that we are able to see with our eyes. But just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not existent. You can feel it, you can sense it. You can sense somebody else's energetic pattern. You can sense their intent. You can sense the fiber of their being within their soul. You can sense that if you are in tune to that, if you are willing to listen to your spirit nature. Your spirit nature, God says that the Holy Spirit goes out before us and paves a way for us. I'm paraphrasing. Well, that's your spirit as well. You have a light inside of you, and that light has many colors and goes before you and paves the way for you. But too many of us are not listening to the spirit, and we're listening to our egos, and our ego says, I want to go there. I can handle that danger. No, you can't. You really think you can handle the danger of a narcissist that they bring? No, they're diabolical. Narcissists are often, they're well educated in neuro-linguistic programming. They have this gift, this natural gift of craftiness. They have this natural gift of a predatory prowess where they dehumanize you. You're thinking that you're talking to a human, but they know who they're talking to, and so they have to dehumanize you to level you down to their size. That's the only way that they can assert control over you, is that they bring you down to their size. They are dehuman, okay? They are the dehumanized ones. They naturally, from this curse of Genesis, they are dehumanizers. Yes, Marlene, these narcs are tricksters. Yes. And it's diabolical. It's diabolical. And many people, Christians who follow the likes of P. Diddy and the rappers and stuff, they're in for a rude awakening. And what I want to talk about today is that we absorb You're absorbing my energy, I'm absorbing your energy because we're coming together in agreement. It doesn't need to be face to face, flesh to flesh contact, like real life contact. This is real life for us because our brains cannot tell the difference between what is reality and what is fantasy. If I'm sharing the truth for you, the truth that you believe, you're going to absorb this. It doesn't matter whether I'm speaking to you on video or in real life or over the phone. Energy knows no bounds. Energy is absorbed by brick, by stone, by dirt. Energy cannot be created or destroyed. It just transforms. Hi, Joe. Yeah, it's good to be back. Yeah, I just wanted to take a couple of days. I had two setbacks. The setback from the person who was a real heckler. They had a familiar spirit of a narcissist that I was familiar with, and they were very threatening on the video that I was doing on Saturday. And so this video lasted 5 minutes long, maybe, because I was constantly trying to, hide what they were saying, and I was constantly reporting them, and they came back with just a new account. So it was really bad, and the things that they had to say was very, very toxic. So I just cut the live feed, and I just thought, you know what, I'll just take some time just to let it simmer. Whether that was a real person or a bot, I don't know, but the last video that I did on sex and the narcissist really shook things up a little bit. Oh, you were there. Yeah, I was a little bit like, I saw two things what they said, and it just alarmed me. I was just like, it was like, I know I got caught like a deer in the headlights. I know I probably showed that on video, and I'm sorry for that. It's just, I was not expecting that kind of speech, and that's the kind of speech that I was familiar with from somebody that I knew. So I suspected that maybe I knew this person, but I don't. Well, if I do, it's not the person that I thought it was. This heckler caused me to go research this person, because I thought, maybe, am I being stalked? Does this person know where I am living now, because I changed residences and stuff? So I just, like, my spidey senses went, ooh, and I found out that they were deceased. And yeah, that's another topic for another day, as that just kind of, I knew that, like, God told me, because this person did me dirty, like really did me wrong, and God had my back, and God told me that something was going to happen, but I didn't want to believe that, because I was still too enmeshed with this narcissist, like a year and a half ago, or no, like two and a half years ago, because he's been deceased now 2 years, and I haven't had contact with them for 2 years, obviously, but they have always been in the back of my mind. I wonder if, am I going to get contacted again? And so this weekend I just had to, go through the motions of mourning, and just like, okay, God, you really do have my back. God, you really are there for me. God, I really am your child. Like, it just made me take a look at my humanity and why we're here, and what all of this means. Like, I faced death many times, but the narcissists, they don't, for us, okay, for those of us, and I'm going to speak for myself, okay, I faced death many, many times where I wasn't always a Christian. So during the time when I wasn't a believer, I faced death, and I called upon God to save me. And I've had many experiences talking to people who want to suicide. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Gotta watch what I say for YouTube. But I'm in that. I'm in the area of intervention and prevention. I believe that everybody has a right. God put us here. We all have a right to life. We all have the right to live life the best of our abilities. And there's some people who have tried to suicide, and they make it. Like God saves them. But there's some people who don't. And the narcissist, this has been my experience. And as recently, this narcissist that I was dating, at the beginning of COVID is when we met. And I didn't know that they were suicidal, but that's how they died. They had their narcissistic collapse because life was just too much for them. And we're going to see that in the near future with many celebrities. Many celebrities are running right now in order to avoid incarceration, in order to avoid taking responsibility, because they don't know how to, because they don't deal with guilt. It's not guilt that they feel, it's shame. Bursa says, God always listens to us. All our prayers get answered in the right time. Amen. Joe said, he saved me. I know this for a fact. Amen. Yes. We are all here. We are here for a reason. I'm going to cry. Life is so precious. There is a reason why God tarries. And yeah, sometimes I get really hard against a narcissist because we're dealing with the bad and their evil ways, but some of them were once human. Some of them were not human at all, never were born that way. They were born as the serpent seed, but some of them made a decision. And my heart goes out to them, and this is why we give unconditional love to everybody. It doesn't matter if it's a narcissist or a child or an elder. We cannot change. Our love is love, and we can't help that, and that's not a bad thing. Excuse me. Our empathy from the narcissist, they have hijacked and used our empathy against us. That is what has become the bad thing. The narcissist cannot love, and they shun love. And Jesus says that they will hate us because of him. The narcissist does not recognize the light in us, but they feel it. And so they flee. And I'm here to tell you, after realizing that the narcissist that I knew, there was some things that happened between us that shouldn't have happened, but it did. And I tried to make it right between us, but he ended up hating me. Just like, read the story of King David's daughter Tamar and her half-brother Absalom. He lusted after her, and he tricked her into, he pretended that he was sick, and she brought him a bowl of soup, and he then R-A-P-E, he hurt her. And after he did that, she tried to make it right between the two of them, according to Hebrew custom. And he shunned her, and he basically said, get away from me, I hate you. And that's what narcissists are like. As soon as they have sex with you, they will tolerate you because there's nobody else, or they use you for their own sexual purposes. But after that one time, you can be sure that the narcissist totally disrespects you after that. Their heart changes towards you after that. And that's what happened between him and I. And God gave me a dream and told me that this person that I was with, exactly, Marlene, you can't fix a narcissist. God, through a dream, told me that this narcissist, he basically crapped on my crown. Like, I literally saw human feces on my head, and I walked up to the narcissist in my dream, and he was wearing a really nice designer jacket, and I rubbed my head onto his chest, and I said, you'll need this back. This doesn't belong to me. And I tried to be friends with this guy. And God told me, I've got something else in store for him. Don't worry about it. Don't try to make it right. Leave him alone. I saw what he did. I've got something in store. And I knew exactly what God was saying. I knew it, but I didn't verbalize it. I didn't turn and plead to God for his life. I just God, just, okay, God, okay, I'm going to trust you. Okay, God, I'm going to trust you. And I left him alone, but this guy was still stalking me. And finally, I had my words to say. And I said, my last text to him was, you cannot make me hate you. I don't want to talk to you ever again. But I forgive you. And there was some other nasty things said about me and back and forth, but I never swore at him. I never allowed myself to go negative and call him an a-hole and call him names. I just no, I'm going to walk in grace on this one. God's got my back. And yeah, God has your back. And that's what I'm here to share with you, is that it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what you did. As Jesus said to the woman who had 5 husbands, he saw her at the well, and what did he say? He did not say, jump through hoops for 5 years and try to work out your trauma for 10 and try to get back with the narcissist, or try to, join a nunnery or a convent and come talk to me after 5 years has passed, and then I'll see if you're worthy of my salvation or not. No, Jesus did not do that. He said to the woman, he told her the truth, and he said, go back to your husband and sin no more. Jesus, through that story, was telling us to go back to our husband. Jesus, go back to your husband and sin no more. That's it. That's unconditional love. And this weekend, God shared with me as I was in mourning and upset and just trying to go back in memory. And God's saying, I took care of him. Don't revisit the past. Stop it. And so God shared with me that narcissists are unable to take responsibility, not just for things that they did. This goes way deeper. God said to me, and this totally makes sense, and this is why the musicians and the film industry, all these people are running away and jumping on jets and going to places where they can't become or can't get extradited, because the narcissist cannot take responsibility for their lives. We can change. That is what it means to take responsibility for your life, is to stop doing what causes the breakdown in your relationship with you and God in the first place. Stop doing that. Prove to God that you love him by not doing things that separate you, your soul, from him. The narcissist is not human. They are permanently separated from God, and God will take them when he knows it's ready. That day when God said, I got something in store for him, I said, before God said that to me, I said, God, let me be the last woman this man ever harms ever again. I got to take care of my sisters. Let me be the last woman he ever harms again. And 6 months later, he was gone. I'm not priding myself in that. This has brought me to my knees in humility, because I'm just of all the things that I've done, I had demons chase me for 20 years, over 20 years. And they tried to get my children. They manifested in front of my children and scared the heck out of my children. I brought this into my family's life. The narcissist brings their demons into your life. Joe says, I have told the one in my life that I have unconditional love, but I won't let my boundaries be violated. She wants all the control of me. Exactly. They won't listen. You know what? You can tell them that you forgive them. If you say this to them, it's basically for you. You know, it helps you, it gives you permission to release yourself from them. That's what it is. Because you don't need permission from the other person for you to be set free. Because, see, this is the thing. Unconditional love is binding. And when we bind ourselves to someone, it's a contract that we take very seriously, right? That's why we linger in our marriages, that we shouldn't, because no, I promise God I'm not going to divorce. I promise to death to, you know, do us part from, you know, sickness and in health. I'm here to the end. No matter how bad they treat me, I'm here, God. I'm here to the end. Because that's what unconditional love is. It's a forever contract. However, you did not go into this contract with the full knowledge. You went into this contract deceived, and you weren't even aware that you were being deceived. You made an uninformed decision in this contract, so that right away, that voids the contract that you had with that person. Once you find out that they deceived you right from the get-go, that's like all bets are off. I'm not obligated anymore to you in this contract, the verbal or otherwise, because you deceived me through it. You tricked me. You made me believe that you were human, and you set out to dehumanize me, and you made me accountable to my word based on what I thought was the truth. So Joe says, I did back in 1978. I know that now, but not back then. Exactly. We have to learn. And God tarries so that we will learn, because he knows that we will. He's not tarrying for the evil people to come to their senses. He's tarrying because he knows what we need. He knows, I'm going to admit, I'm a slow learner. And it takes me a long time to finally freaking get the clue. So God has to tarry, because it's like, oh, Shannon hasn't gotten it yet. You know, this is her 5th time go around and she's still not grabbing the clue. And, you know, maybe the other angels are saying to God, when is she ever going to get it? Is it going to be the 50th time? And God's like, just give it some time. She'll get it. She will. You know, and the angel's like, I know you, God. You know Shannon. You know everyone so well. So, yeah, I'm going to trust you. But, geez, this is taking so long. God's like, it takes as long as it takes, my friend. You know, that's just it. So he tarries for us. Not for the evil person. He tarries for us. And Bursa says, you're talking to me on such a deep level. I always pray to God, please don't forget me. Keep me on the right path. And I pray the same prayer for him, not to ever get the chance to abuse anyone ever again. Oh. You know, then I was meant to speak today, because you know, life is precious. Your life is precious. And that's why I'm doing this. You know, just because of what I went through, I don't know what you guys went through, but my own personal experience, I've had death chase me so many times that your salvation is important to me. It really is. I may never see you, but that's okay. I don't have to see you to know you. I don't have to see you to have this kinship with you guys. I want you. I love you so much that I want you in heaven with me. And after there has been no doubt in my mind that I'm going to heaven for a long time. I just doubted that I was God's child. Like, I just wanted to, you know, after being adopted and not feeling love in that that family, I just needed that crutch, to feel loved by God. And I'm, just this past year and a half, I've finally felt it, like just finally knowing that God is walking with me and giving me insight and sharing with me so much, that this past weekend, understanding that God made good on his word. Like, God does not lie. And after he said what he said to me, it was 6 months later. This man had 6 months to get it right, and he still couldn't get it right. And that's what has me to my knees right now, is that our life is precious and we are being led like lambs to the slaughter. Aw, thank you, Bursa. You're precious too. Aw, I'm really grateful for you guys. Joe says, that's right. He will never give up on us. That's unconditional love. Yes. And, it takes a while to root that out, because for me and for many of us, we've been raised on conditional love. And that's the narcissist. Exactly. Thank God, Bursa. Thank God, Jesus, God, our Father, is our judge. And, it's life is so precious, and I used to take life for granted before I was a Christian. Like, I've had animals die, and they died because of my neglect, and I'm not happy about that at all. When I think about the animals that I loved and lost, and I could have done better by them, and yet God allowed some very precious animals into my life even after I didn't recognize the sentientness, the sentient being in all animals. I just took animals for granted, and abused them and used them and neglected them, and still God put two very powerful dogs in my life that helped to change me. I'm just grateful, and those dogs became so close to me, like sons. Like, they're animals are guardian angels. So God uses the good and bad of this life to change us, to help us to come into and see ourselves as how God sees us, because he created us to be like him. And so I'm getting way off topic here, but it's not really, because we need to understand who we are. And the abuse is poison on us, yes. And yes, it affects us, but it won't kill us. God tells us that we can ingest poison, not that we go and ingest poison, but, it won't affect us because we are protected. And, we see on a bigger picture, the trauma that we're going through, yes, it's painful. Yes, it feels like it's never ending. Yes, it hurts us to our very core. But on a grand scale, we're only seeing a little slice of what the bigger picture is. And this is just on the scale of eternity. The trauma that we are going through is just a symptom, like how you feel like a cold coming on. It would be equivalent to a few sneezes, like maybe a sneezing attack, and then the next day you're done. It's over. The cold is gone. That's like when you start healing yourself of the tragedy through the word of God, the trauma doesn't hit you the same. The trauma doesn't feel the same. You can talk about the trauma, you have memories of the trauma, but the feelings are non-existent. It doesn't hurt you, and you can see that, okay, this trauma was helped me get some stones, some stones in my pocket to help me freaking deal with Goliath. Like this trauma really helped to strengthen me. And so if you can, you're not going to see that right away. Excuse me just for a second. You're not going to see that right away, but once you start healing, you will. And one of the things to healing is why healing is so difficult. And this is bringing me back to my initial point that I want to cover in this video is, I can't wait for that day either, when we're all reunited to God in heaven and we get to see each other. That's going to be precious. But the reason why trauma is so hard to get rid of is because there is this soul tie. We've absorbed the soulless nature of the enemy, and using P. Diddy and his ilk as an illustration. When you look at P. Diddy 30 years ago and who he looks like now, can you see a totally different person? If you believe in cloning, put that aside for right now. Just assume that P. Diddy now is the same person he was born with, 50 years ago. When he first got into music industry, he looked, somewhat different, spiritually different than what he does now. He looks like a blank shell of a human now. I've done a study on Sesame Street on this channel. Just in the search engine, type in Sesame Street, because I'm convinced that watching Sesame Street as kids helped us to have that blank stare, like think of a little toddler staring at the TV with their mouth open. And it's because of what they were looking at. Kids mimic what they see, and they were mimicking the blank stare, those googly eyes of those puppets. And that stare is what we see in the stare of a psychopath, the empty eyes. Yes, it is a spiritual transfer. Hello, Lady T, nice to see you. It is a spiritual transfer, and that's something that we do not think of. If we had the ability to see somebody's a narcissist's aura, what would we see? Now, when I mention aura, please don't think this is woohoo, witchcraft, or anything like that. As I said at the beginning of this video, science calls energy what it is, energy. But where science calls energy, the Bible calls spirit. And Jesus himself allowed his energy, his spirit, to shine before his disciples at the transfiguration. Jesus is pure light. Think of all the colors of the rainbow coming together. That forms a white light. Okay, so you have all the colors of the rainbow coming together, and that is what Jesus showed his disciples. He showed them his aura at the transfiguration. Even Moses had his aura shine, but people were scared of it, so he had to veil his face. We don't have this because the teachings of Jesus himself, there are 72, that's 72 books of the teachings of Jesus alone have been omitted by the Emperor Constantine. So if Jesus just showed us the transfiguration, what came after that? What teaching came after that? Did those disciples, after they got over their fear and said, "Teach us, Jesus, how are you able to do that? Teach us that." Do we have that light inside of us? And Jesus told the disciples, the same power that's in you is what raises Jesus from death to life. I mean, that's our New Testament. But did Jesus tell his disciples, I'm going to be put to death and the power of God is going to raise me, and that is going to be your comforter, and I'm going to give my authority that everybody who believes in me has access to that power? What was in those 72 books? We don't know. And so we're just flying by the seat of our pants, and because a denomination, a church says, "Oh, no, you must not see your aura. No, that's bad. It's witchcraft. Sorcery." Ooh. So we're taught that it's evil. No, it's not. I was taught in the Pentecostal church that I should not pray to Jesus. I have always prayed to Jesus. I have not always been a Christian. I've been tormented by demons. I wrote about it. I've been tormented by demons for over 20 years, and Jesus saved me. During those times, I called out to Jesus. I didn't call out to God our Father. I called out to Jesus because the demons cannot touch that name. The demons tremble when they hear the word Jesus, the name Jesus. And I put my faith in Jesus that Jesus would save me, and he did. But I was not delivered until I began living the repentant lifestyle. A narcissist cannot repent. And so they are subjected. They're the empty house. The narcissist is an empty house as they forsook that power of God long time ago. They have no power. The only power that they have is by coercion, by force, by gritting their teeth and showing their fists and holding us for ransom at knife point or gun point, or some sort of blackmail threat. The power of God is supernatural. Where you need healing, you got it through your belief. Jesus healed. There was somebody who was walking around with a lame hand, and Jesus said, outstretch your hand, and what happened? The man was healed. Jesus gave sight to the blind. He let people walk who could not walk. He enabled them to walk just by their faith in him alone. The narcissist wants us to put our faith in them through fear. And that's what this world is made out of. Fear or love. And Joe says, Shannon, do we have a need to know what is in those 72 books? God gave us what we need to know to live according to his will and our salvation. Absolutely. We don't need to know, but for some of us who have not always been Christian, it is important for us to know, for me anyways, my spirituality. Why is it in scripture that Moses' face shone when he saw the back end of God on the mountain? And then in the New Testament, we have Jesus showing his aura. And the disciples were scared because the Sanhedrin were not true Christians. They were not true believers. They didn't believe in God in the way according to the law of Moses. Moses himself saw a light, a burning bush. Was it on fire, or was it just a white light, or a light of some sort shining, emanating from the tree? It can bring importance. It can enhance us. Understanding these 72 books. Oh yeah, anything where Jesus is concerned, these books leave out the teachings of Jesus, because Jesus said, you can do what I have done and more. Well, we only have a few of the miracles that Jesus did. He turned water into wine. He walked on water. He walked through walls. He changed his likeness before men. From 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, he was able to feed 5,000 people and 4,000 people. He was able to make the blind man see, the lame man walk. He was able to heal or raise the dead. He was able to cast out demons. But these are just little snippets. Like I said, some of us are, very, very difficult students where we have negativity as it's our roadblock. And science has shown that for every negative thing that your subconscious holds on to, you have to counteract that with at least 3 positive things. So in order for a belief to be established, you have to repeat it over and over and over and over and over again. And I know this to be true with the situation that I dealt with dealing with demons. I had to get to the point where I could step in my power, my kingdom power, and my strength in the Lord, and allow Jesus to work through me and use my voice and say, "The Lord rebuke you." I had to get to that point, and to get to that point, I had to repeat some things over and over and over again. And that's what the teachings of Jesus show us, that he taught by example, but he taught by repetition. Repetition is what brings about faith and helps you to discern what is true or not. And some of the things that are missing from Jesus's teachings, Jesus, walked through a wall to avoid people. But can you walk through a wall right now? No. Why not? Because the foundation of how to understand the Spirit is not there. We're led in schools to think of flesh and bone. That's why science fixates on biology. Darwin taught that there was nothing in the cell, it was just empty space. But now, this modern day teaches that there's so much going on in this little tiny cell that's so small that we need a microscope to look at it. And underneath this microscope, there's smaller things going on. You think it would be a crowded room in this cell, but no, these mitochondria, DNA, cytoplast. Cytoplast is in a plant cell. Just all these little things going on in the cellular structure that allow the cell itself to thrive and survive, but come together as a working unit inside the body and keep our immune system functioning, keeping our lungs going, keeping our eyesight going, keeping, our breathing and our, just, it's so intricate in human design. And Darwin says, there's nothing to the cell. It's empty space. Who does that? Where you've got this cell that you can put that fits on the end of a pin, and yet there's still space in this cell after there's how many different working parts in the cell? The mitochondria, the whatever, I can't even remember, but there's my mind's going to the diagram that you see in high school, of the cellular structures and the different things going on, the factory of the cell and all that you learn. I mean, those things are smaller than the cell, and they're in the cell, and yet there's still room for them to move around. Who does that? No one but God. And they work according to the direction within water. Every life has its foundation on water, and Jesus says that he is the living water. So, yeah, I believe it's good to understand. And if the Bible did include those 72 books, we'd be further along in our faith now. And I believe that the Roman Empire took away those books because those books would usurp the Roman Empire and take away Constantine's rule. And if those people who had I found out that some of the people in the Roman era, like the believers of God who followed God, they were being burned at the stake. And what they did was they were writing their own books, of what they knew about God and the spiritual aspects, the energy aspects. What they were writing down and sharing with it orally, but their books were being buried with them to prevent Constantine from getting a hold of them. So that's really interesting, a study in itself, because these people, they had the teachings of God, they had the teachings of Jesus. I mean, there is like over 400 years missing from between the Old Testament and the New Testament. So we're missing that too. And that's the time when the Israelites were in Babylon, when they were in Assyria and Egypt. So we have no manuscripts. That is a time that basically God's land and his children were barren. We have missing history there for a reason. And that's the fault of the Israelites, because they chose to follow the ways of evil. But Constantine deliberately took out 72 books of the Bible on the teachings of Jesus alone. What do we not know that we are supposed to know? I personally believe we don't know this stuff. We're being taught about our physical DNA and our physical nature instead of our spirituality, because our spirituality, that's where we're healed. You can heal yourself. I mean, you pray to God and you got healing. You have faith. You have faith in who you are as God's child. You're healed. Jesus says you have the power to raise the dead, to exorcise demons, to heal the sick, just from transfer of energy. So I'm off my soapbox now. Thanks for listening. So Joe says, yes, I see your point, Shannon. I have had questions on those lines as well. Yeah, like I just find this so fascinating that if you delve into the history, like I used to be the one, I would tell you, oh, I don't need to read the book of Kings because that's history of the Bible. I don't need to know the history. I was so arrogant, and I actually said that. I said that to God. I don't want to learn the history of the Bible. I just want to know you, God. Well, you want to know God? Learn your history. It's fascinating. And now I can't get enough. I can't get enough of the Old Testament. I'm just like rooting through that and just like studying. And, you know, the Old Testament backs up the New Testament. The New Testament backs up the Old. It's just fascinating, fascinating. So understanding that we are energy beings, and it is like, who said it? Lady T, that it is a spiritual transfer. That when you have sex with somebody, you are sharing your spiritual nature with them. And as we talked about in the last video, that it isn't just, you know, coming together in physical union to solidify your love. It's actually exchanging a spiritual union where, you know, two people do become one. It's like if I was mated to somebody and I had physical intercourse with them, their spiritual nature would be imparted to me, and my spiritual nature would be imparted to them, and we would become one. And the more we did the more we became physical with each other, the more spiritual aspects that we would have of each other in us. And that's why you see some couples, they actually start changing their likeness to look more like each other. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, because as I said, if you've noticed a difference in appearance of P. Diddy when he first got into the music industry until now, cloning aside, skin grafting and, augmentation aside, there is something spiritual going on here. That these people who have sex with the same sex, you're having a man exchange masculinity with another man's masculinity, and men are absorbing each other's masculine prowess. Of course, there's going to be, it's going to be like a one-on-one fight. It's going to be a battle. This man who is having sex with other men is his countenance inside, his behavior is changing to be totally manly, totally on this side, you know, this warrior, Viking, you know, and there's no balance of femininity in there. Like, there might be a little bit of femininity, but there's an abundance of masculine prowess in there. And back in the day, men were, you know, the hunter and gatherers. They were the warriors. They were the ones that defended the women and children from the marauders. And now we're having to fend ourselves off from these men who have sex with other men who become the marauders, and instead they are no longer protecting us, as we need to find the men to protect us from these marauding men who are they're the Vikings of modern day. And I'm sure even Vikings loved their women. But these men who chase after other men, they have no love for a woman. They have betrayed their humanity. They have forsaken their humanity for lust. And same with the woman who chases after a woman sexually. It's the same thing. Women are losing their nurturing ways and are becoming beasts. You know, the Amazon woman. And again, I'm sure Amazon women, they loved their men too. Although there's stories that they didn't. But, you know, it's really, really disheartening to see, because what also we're seeing is that they're exchanging what God created to be a balance, the feminine and masculine divine nature of mankind. There's an imbalance now, as these people in the limelight are preying upon not just people of their own kind who are homosexual in nature, but now are preying upon the public, the people who like the music and like everything that these people stand for on the public eye. They stand for prestige and wealth and prosperity. And, you know, many people have been mentored through the decades through this type of rap music and these movies that these people promote. And, you know, like, it's disheartening, because the lambs of modern day are being led to the slaughter. And like I said in last video, is that when you have a lamb hanging around with a goat, that lamb is going to be raised to believe it is a goat, even though it's not a lamb. Even though when it's mature, it looks like a sheep, it's going to believe, I'm a goat. I'm just like you. I can climb those mountains. And the hoof of the lamb or the sheep is different than the hoof of the goat, and the goat can climb anywhere. And the lamb will follow, and what happens? That goat goes up that mountain, and the lamb tries to follow, and the lamb falls. And the goat says, "Timber, sucks to be you, bye-bye." And so what we're seeing with a lot of these superstars, a lot of these movie people, a lot of these rap stars, these singers, they have changed over the years. And it's not just from plastic surgery. I'm convinced they're using plastic surgery not to hide their age. That's just a false story. They're using the plastic surgery to hide the demonics. Because when you drink, when you do drugs, you open yourself to demonic entities. This is a spiritual war here. Even the government, even you've heard the government people say this is biblical. And yes, this is biblical. No longer can we sit on the sidelines and say, you know, I'm waiting for my money and I'm just waiting to have my life get better again. And no, this is biblical. We're seeing what happens when you go against the law of God. We're seeing what happens when you live an unrepentant lifestyle. People say, oh, they promote this, oh, once saved, always saved garbage. No. We're seeing that just because you say, I believe in Jesus, and you wear a cross around your neck or as earrings, or you say, this Emmy I give to God, thanks. That does not get you credit in God's eyes. Jesus says their lips, these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me, and I will say, go away, I never knew you. This is what we're seeing, and yet the little lambs, the people that we are supposed to be shepherding, but we're not shepherding them because we're not yet ready. And so these little lambs are being shepherded by the goats. And these goats are getting found out. These goats are getting exposed. And so these little lambs are coming out of that coming to us and saying, where is God? Why did God allow this? Why did that happen? Why were these people allowed to hurt other people sexually and sex affect them and use, have underground tunnels and stuff? Why did God permit that? And we have to have an answer, but because we're not ready, we're so focused on aligning our hearts right with God that we're not ready. Well, we have to be ready. And the understanding is this, that you don't have to have sex with these people. The enemy knows. The enemy is diabolical. The enemy we talked about, somebody asked on live there the other day, does the enemy read your thoughts? Can the enemy give you dreams? Absolutely. How they get in is through your ego. Your ego is rooted in fear. This is why we need to grab a hold of and become more self-aware. Self-awareness has nothing to do with the ego. The ego is rooted in fear and rooted in trauma. Somebody did this to me. Somebody did that to me. Oh, my feelings are hurt. They wanted to, control me. They wanted to do... No. Self-awareness is focusing on the here and now, not the past, not the future, the here and now. I'm not being traumatized right now. Nobody's traumatizing me. So, me saying I'm being traumatized, I'm working out my trauma, well, no, I'm working about the past memories of my trauma. And I'm further along as I've worked on the emotion and dissipating the emotional charge through self-awareness practices by getting to know me, who I am outside of my ego, and understanding who I am as a child of God rooted in unconditional love. Now I'm ready to go and help those lost lambs. And you're being made ready too, and maybe you are ready. God will put people in your path where you have to give an accounting. And the thing is, turn off the TV. Stop listening to the fake news. Stop watching those videos, because that is how the enemy also gets into your mind. Not just your heart, your mind. The enemy in physicality, the narcissist, exchanges your sex with you in exchange for a little piece of your spirit, so that they can deposit their spirit into you and your spirit into them. And what ends up happening with you is that spirit of the narcissist, you hang around. There's a psychological saying that you become what you hang around, and that is true. You take on certain narcissistic traits, and after the narcissist is gone, it's hard to get rid of them, because it's not just feelings that you're dealing with. It's not just your own feelings. You're dealing with the spirit of the narcissist deposited into you every time you held hands with them, spent time with them in the same room, watching the same TV shows, listening to them in conversation, or having sex with them. And that is what is going on every time you watch a video of P. Diddy or these video rap moguls or movie stars, every time you see them have sex, every time you see them drink, every time you see them do drugs, every time you see them do something spiritually diabolical in the way of witchcraft and sorcery on video, because you're watching, they are depositing their spirit into you, and it is as if you're participating with them. You become like-minded with them, and that gives their demons a direct conduit, a soul tie to infiltrate you. Don't think it can't happen. It does happen. Many people worship people like P. Diddy, Kevin Hart, Madonna, Oprah. I stopped watching Oprah a long time ago in the early 90s when she basically said nobody needs Jesus Christ. That was it for me and a lot of people. It was like, oh, no. You don't get to dismiss my God on TV just because you have money and you think because you've got money, people are, and that's the thing, because people worship money. And they think that having money means you have ultimate power and ultimate intelligence. But you know what? You're still not God. You can have all the world or money in the world. You're still not God. You'll never be God. But they make themselves seem like God. And that is what gets idolized. Okay, so hi Zaria. Am I saying your name right? They ask, why is God allowing these things? When will these traumas end? And that's why my life fell apart. People look at me crazy. I was married to a covert narcissist and have 6 grown kids by a covert narcissist. Welcome to this channel. We love you and you are safe here. And, you know, God does allow this to happen, unfortunately. But, you know, the trauma will end, and there is a reason why God allows the trauma to happen. But unless you really understand, you're not going to really believe it. It's something that hurts many people. So my advice to you is the trauma will end when you allow yourself to heal in the way of realizing that it's not your fault, it never was your fault, and by understanding the narcissist, you can then understand yourself, because the narcissist, as much as they were here to help destroy you, that's what the evil portion of it is. But the Bible says that God allows, you know, what the enemy meant for harm, God turns around for our good. So turning this bad situation into a good one will help you understand that the narcissist can help you see things in you, behaviors and mannerisms that are not conducive and do not feed unconditional love. The narcissist shows you areas in yourself where you are ignoring yourself, where you are neglecting yourself, and where you are not allowing love, unconditional love, to shine. So they turned my adult kids against me. They ruined my reputation. Yes, I've been there too, honey. And I'm sorry that happened. And all you can do, like somebody said here today on this channel, that God is our judge, and all you can do is live the best to your ability with a changed heart, and change your life around to live for the better. And you know, eventually your children, they may be turned away from you now, but they're getting wiser and they're getting more mature, and eventually, I promise you, they will come to you, and they will come to you and ask questions, and they will share with you how bad it really was living with their other parent. They're going to share with you how they wish life was different, and how they see their other parent, and how their other parent duped other people into believing that it was all your fault. They're going to say, you know what? It wasn't all them, or it wasn't all you. It was them too. I can see that now. They will say that. They will. And it's just going to take time. And in the meantime, just work on yourself and trust that God has it all figured out. Trust that God is watching over your kids. Pray for your kids. Pray for your family. And God will honor that. He answers your prayer. He was killed in March at a bar. Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. That's tough. And, you know, your kids, again, it doesn't matter if a death happened or not. Though your kids are now going to have time to reflect, and maybe they're bitter right now. Maybe they're still going through the grieving process. It's going to take time. But again, God, just trust and pray that God works on their heart, and He will. And He'll have them come to you. And you'll have the opportunity to answer their questions. And when they come to you, you'll be ready because you'll be healed of your trauma. So just keep going, keep moving forward, keep walking steady, and just trust that things work out in your favor. They always do. This is working out in your favor. So I know it's hard to see that right now. It really is hard to see that. But the more you work on yourself, the more you exercise your moments of now and stay present in your life, instead of allowing your feelings to just guide you wherever you want to go, higgledy-piggledy, you're going to see the reasons why life unfolded as they have. You're going to see it. So going back to the movie industry and the music industry, the music that we play on the airwaves, you know, we listen to in our cars, that's influencing us. And these people who are having same-sex coupling, this is directly against God. This goes against His law. And people say, oh, well, we're not under the old law anymore. We're under the new law. Jesus brought the spirit of the old law, because that's the Sanhedrin. They came out of Babylon. And they were practicing and worshiping after strange gods. And that's what we're seeing today. P. Diddy, he's been known allegedly to be involved in voodoo and witchcraft. Hillary Clinton has been promoted, and so has, what's her name? The one married to Jay-Z. See, I don't follow these people. Not J-Lo, not Jennifer Lopez, the other one. You guys know who she is. Honey, I'm still healing. I've been working on this for 10 years now. I started healing when I was in a narcissistic relationship because I realized my narcissistic relationship was over. So I just let things happen. I started following God, let God be my man, and I started living the repentant lifestyle. The more I followed God, the more distance my husband became to me, and finally we divorced 6 years ago, and I'm still working it out. But I am so much closer in healing than I have ever before. So it takes as long as it takes. And I will tell you that it's taken me this long, at least 10 years, because I was distracted by going to narcissists and trying to find love outside of myself in the from a broken down individual who'd had no heart. I was trying to find my own heart in them, and that cost me 3 years. So it's going to take as long as it takes, but I promise you, if you work on your healing And you're welcome to talk to me if you want to. I'm just an email away. I'm here to talk with you. Talking is free, no charge. I do have coaching courses if you want to get involved in that. We can talk about that too. Yes, narcs are time wasters. You're right on the money, Marlene. Absolutely, and you can't get that time back. But what you can do is use that time to reflect. After you come out of it, you can reflect and ask yourself, how did this person, how did they help me? Who did they, for me, I would ask, okay, who did this narcissist mirror in my life who traumatized me in my childhood? Either my mom or my dad or my sister. What scenario, because I have fractured memories, like I have a lot of feeling, but I don't have memory. So I'd ask God, who does this person remind me of? What kind of situation do I not know, but I have feeling attached? Where is this coming from? How can I turn this around? How can I use this narcissist in order to forgive my mom or my dad or my sister? Your healing takes as long as it takes, but I promise you, if you work at it every single day, you don't have to work at it all day long. Just, take some time to journal, take some time for self-reflection, take some time for you, go for a walk, de-stress, exercise, do something. Here. This is my first try. I did this weekend, just in a matter of hours. And that has to do with the guy the narcissist that I found out had suicided himself this weekend. So there's a story in that, but that's another day. These narcissists, they start changing. And because you're so close to them, you may not notice the change. You may not notice the change in P. Diddy. You may not notice the change in Jay-Z or that famous evangelist on television. You may not see the change, but if you don't follow them regularly, you will see the change. Kenneth Copeland has made changes in his face. And you wonder why. Because there's some things that he's got hidden in his dirty, dirty closet. And we're seeing his demon and his demons. When you drink, when you do drugs, when you're sexually promiscuous and you break God's covenant that he had with mankind, that man shall only lay with a woman, and you go against that law and you're a man and you lay with a man, or you're a woman and you lay with a woman, you're opening yourself up to demons. And if you follow these people, listen to their music, you watch their videos, watch their movies, you're creating a spiritual cord, a spiritual soul tie, where these demons then can channel themselves into you. And be careful, they will. You start drinking, start doing drugs, start experimenting with your sexuality, you're going to be in for a world of hurt, and you're going to start seeing a change on your face. And maybe you won't see it, but other people will. And it's not nice. Because what's happening is the heart of the individual, the heart of that demon is being exposed on the face, and the eyes are the window to the soul. And you, first off, you'll see the dead eyes. You'll see it. You'll see that they are dead, and they have this psychopathic stare where they're staring, they're looking at you, but beyond you, like they're looking at the wall that's behind you. And they're trying to pay attention to you, but they're not paying attention to you. They're paying attention to the words that they're saying in their heads. But because it looks like they're looking at you, you think, oh, they're paying attention to me. They're interested in me. No, they're interested in harvesting your soul. And that's what this has all been about. Our young kids are the lambs being led to slaughter by these people. And now, because we have the invention of the internet, our kids know things about sex that we probably don't even know. Our kids know how to have homosexual sex. They know about doing the nasty with people and doing different things with people, and they shouldn't know that. Their minds are supposed to be innocent, but no longer are their minds innocent. And it's going to get way worse. Way worse. So go look at the old pictures of your celebrities from 20 and 30 years ago up until now. You'll see a change. Again, whether it's a body double, whether they've been cloned or not, I can't say. But I know for certain on many of these people, you see demons. And that lets you know that this has all been about demon worship. The enemy has used his cunning nature. Remember, God tells us to be as wise as the serpent, but as innocent as the dove. The enemy has used his cunningness to get us all to worship the enemy. And now we're seeing society divided. We're seeing now where people are going to say, no, not my celebrity. My celebrity would never do this. I'm not going to talk to you because you're dissing my celebrity. We're going to see that. There's going to be sympathizers. And I'm going to tell you that there's information. I learned about this like 20 years ago. I was a homeschooling mom, so I had to research some stuff. And God told me a long time ago not to listen to music or watch TV. Because watching TV, Galatians says, keep yourself free from factions, dissensions, gossip. You're supposed to keep away from sexual debauchery and keep yourselves in self-control. So when you're watching these videos where Madonna comes out wearing these demon horns and where Nicki Minaj comes out with her face all full of blood, or Lady Gaga wearing a meat suit, I mean, this has spiritual accentuation, and their intention in their water that they are breathing and exhaling, their intention is getting a hold of you somehow through a fancy backbeat by heartfelt lyrics. Whatever it is that tickles your fancy, you got to close off those itching ears. Because demons are real. This is no joke. The beginning of Genesis says, I will put enmity between your seed and hers. This is the wheat and the tares, and the weeds are getting exposed. Joe says, that's how I felt about KISS. Yes, back in the 80s. Yeah. We used to have a saying for the band called WASP, WASP. Somebody was, I don't know if this is true or not, but it was going around saying that stands for we are sex perverts. And KISS has a name too, and it's an acronym for something. I just can't remember what it is. Well, KISS in my day was also cool in the 80s as well. There were a few songs from KISS that we listened to. But yeah, like the makeup from KISS, that's demonic. So it's like even there's talk about the song You Light Up My Life. There's talk, I don't know if this is true, but there's talk that someone created that song as paying homage to the devil. Kids in Satan's service. Yeah, and yeah, that's exactly it. And see, that's the thing. Our kids, the kids today who watch Puff Daddy, and what a stupid name, but you know his name is sexual. He's a sex pervert. And our kids come home and they're singing and dancing and got that on their phones. They're bringing that garbage into our house. They're bringing the spirit of that demon into our house. And demons just are not just singular. Read your scripture. Jesus exercised legion. A legion is about 1,000 army men in the Roman army. They travel in packs. And Jesus made it clear, if one evil spirit leaves your house, leaves your body, and goes and roams arid places and doesn't find anywhere to call home, it will come back. And if it finds your house empty, meaning that you haven't replaced that with anything else, and it's swept clean, like Jesus is not there, then it will go, oh, okay, so this is going to be empty for a while, so I have time to go and collect 7 more demons stronger than it, and then inhabit this empty vessel. The narcissist. And you have sex with that person, you sit for hours and hours and talk on the phone with that person, you watch TV with this person, you do things with this person, you share your heart, you share your body, you share your soul with this person, you go and visit them, you spend like maybe even 5 hours with them during the day. All it takes is like 5 minutes being in the same room with somebody with the dominant spiritual energy, and you too, your hearts will become syncopated. You'll become synchronized in heartbeats. Heartmath.org. Our hearts are syncopated right now. We're in alignment. This is why Jesus says, where 2 or more come together in my name, there I am also. Well, if Jesus has that, doesn't the enemy have something like that, where 2 or more come together in agreement with the enemy? There, the enemy is also there. That's why you have Madonna prancing around in demon horns and black garb, and Beyonce dancing around and scantily clad, sexual, doing gyrations and stuff, because it's all perversion. It's perversion of the truth, and it's demonic activity. And if you're coming together watching this, using the stuff that you're watching or your children are watching is invoking a feeling from you. And that feeling is what the enemy grabs a hold of. You are in the same energetic pattern as Madonna, as her demons. So you are going to attract her demons or other demons like it. It's just a fact. It has to happen. Think back to your science. Cations and anions. Electrons are either given away or they are taken. So when your kids are watching P. Diddy and watching a video that has some sort of pornographic or spell, witchcraft attached to it, their phone, the TV, is like a Ouija board. It is like an Ouija board, where that now is in their heads and they're being spellbound and bewitched. So how do you get rid of this? Turn off the TV, turn off the music, and start learning about God, because this is a spiritual war. This is an attack on the bloodline of Christ. This is an attack on our very salvation. People think, oh, once saved, always saved. No, 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 no. The people in the limelight now who are having their come to Jesus moment, it's not authentic. It's a way for them to hide. It's a way for them to avoid feeling shame. I've seen this so many times. And even we've seen this with the narcissist. The spiritual narcissist cannot love God. They can say, oh, I love Jesus, but they cannot change. And they are the ones that Jesus says, their lips give me service, but their hearts are far from me. And so I will say, go away, I never knew you. And those people that harm children by taking away their innocence, well, it's like a millstone tied around their neck. Don't get me started about once saved, always saved. No such thing. The only way we are saved is when we continue to follow Jesus. God says, if you remain in me and I remain in you. There's a condition to that statement. Did you catch it? If. Just like when God said to King Solomon, if you worship me and obey my commandments, then I will hold to my promise that I gave David your father, that there will always be somebody on the throne. But if you do not follow me, this and this will happen. We always have a choice. Jesus said, if you remain in me. How do we remain in God? Joy. And this is ultimately how we learn to let go of our trauma. By being joyful in the here and now. Making our thoughts joyful. Rejoicing over that Jesus has saved us. Jesus has preserved our life. Jesus is tarrying. He's not coming back because he's waiting for the diabolical to change their ways. Look in Revelation. God says that he gives people chances after chances after chances, but those whose hearts are turned against God, they still refuse. They still, even though they're exposed, even though God has bended their knee, they still refuse to acknowledge God. That's the enemy of the children who have enmity over Eve's seed. And these people who have been coerced, who have been robbed of their free will by having this baby oil poured all over them that is infused with some sort of narcotic. When they have been forced to drink a drink that has a narcotic in it. They have had demons forced upon them. They have had the demon working through these individuals, force sex on them through this sexual assault. And not only that, is now that these people have been manipulated and coerced to keep doing this, they now have demons that are hard to get rid of. And they can't help but do what they want. They now like doing what they want because they are demonic influenced. Now, when these people go to jail and they are punished for their crimes against humanity, and these crimes are treasonous, and treason is punishable by DEATH, where do you think the demons are going to go? That's why this video is important, because it's time to armor up. God has preserved us for a reason. God is in you. And it's going to be a time where we are going to have to exorcise demons and rebuke the heck out of the people, our loved ones. Have you ever seen things fall off a wall? Have you ever seen things fly across a room? Have you ever felt your bed shake while you're in it? Have you ever been levitated? Have you ever been approached by these so-called aliens? Oh, this is just talk and banter for the other people. No, this stuff is real. And the demons have flourished through people who are willing to serve them. And our little children are the little lambs who hang around these goats, who learn to identify as a goat, but they don't look like a goat. They don't have the heart and blood of a goat. They're brainwashed, and it's us who have to undo that brainwashing. And we have to do it stealthily, lovingly, in a way that doesn't hurt their cognitive dissonance, to make them think, you're hurting me, you just don't like P. Diddy, you just don't like his music, you just don't like this. We have to do this in a loving way, so we have to prepare our hearts and allow God to prepare us. So these people coming out of this mindset of living for MTV, living for the stardom, and identifying with all these movies and these musical talents, so-called talent. These people are traumatized just like we have been. And so we can lend our understanding and love to these people. And we have to use our discernment, because some of these people are going to be demonically possessed, and they're going to put on a pretty cool game that makes it look like they've been traumatized and they want to change, and they're wasting our energy. We have to bring discernment into this. Because those demons, what happens when people are tried for treason? Those demons are going to be roaming around, going to people who are weak. So it's time to armor up. Am I making sense? So I want to thank you guys for listening. If you guys have more, this is a deep conversation, and we could get into it longer, but I think I've talked long enough. And maybe there's going to be a part 3. I don't know. But this is the world we live in. The enemy has been exposed, and no longer can we deny the Bible. No longer can we deny what God's word says. And now it's time to make our election sure, and we're being made ready as our trauma. We've been dealing with our trauma so that we can help others deal with their trauma. But we also have to be shrewd like snakes and innocent as the dove, and test the spirits to see if they are of God, because sometimes those demons are going to come walking and talking in trauma and saying, I need help, and all they are is just going to waste our time and harvest our energy from us. So we have to be on our A game. I'm back. I will be back here tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Maybe even, maybe tomorrow night we'll do a live tomorrow night as well. But, definitely I'll be here tomorrow at 1. So I just want to say thank you all for showing up, and thank you for watching the last video on this. Wow, you guys have blown up this channel. We've gained more subscribers from that video, and may we grab more subscribers from this video, because this is information that needs to get out. This is what Positively Spiritual is all about, understanding narcissism, not just from a psychological, fleshly perspective, but from a divine spiritual perspective that sets us free. And I feel it. I feel like we are being set free. So thank you for watching. I love you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.